I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with him. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. All right. So before we get to our quote unquote lessons, I wanted to share with everyone that one of the four musketeers, one of the four pillars of the Course in Miracles, which probably some of you either have never heard of, or maybe heard her name in passing occasionally, but never really knew much about her, passed away this week. And that was Judy Skutch, or many times they call her Judith Skutch.
How old are you?
And she was 90.
90?
What was the last time she did?
She wasn't from this
She was the
class.
one that
She,
published it.
yeah, I'll talk about what her purpose of the course was. And I brought a picture, so let me show it to the people online. This is Judy, and I will put that
That's really
in.
looks like Helen.
Not really.
She doesn't have glasses on.
True. But Helen was tinier. She had real curly hair. Yeah.
Was she in?
I'll share. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I thought I would share a little bit about Judy and what her purpose was in the course, how it happened that she found herself in that purpose, and what she provided for the course throughout the years. So, as I said, she was 90 years old, passed away this week. So as most of you know, Bill and Helen took down the course, and that was from 1965 to 72. At which time Ken Wapnick showed up, and then he worked very closely with Helen, editing the chapters, punctuation and the whole thing, and became very, very in depth with the course. But the course still remained very dormant. And what I mean by that was, other than Helen, Bill, and Ken, there were probably only maybe 3 or 4 other people that knew anything about the course. It was very hush hush, especially for Helen and for Ken, or for Bill as well. They were extremely uncomfortable. I mean, Helen was very uncomfortable even bringing the course forward. So to be associated with this and putting it out into the public was certainly a very challenging experience for her.
She told Jesus, but we didn't ask for this.
But they did. Yeah.
Well, they asked for another way.
Yes.
They didn't ask.
Well, but isn't that the way we all do? We ask for a way, and then the way comes and go, wait, no, that wasn't what I asked for.
And that's how she looked at it.
Exactly. But
Nothing wrong.
right, but she also agreed to do it. And she at
Right.
one point did ask Jesus, and why me? Why not a Catholic priest or a nun or somebody? And he said, because you agreed to do it. And she couldn't fight that, so away she went on her journey. Yes, Barb, did you have a question?
When did they take it down?
From 1965 to 72.
65 to 70.
Yeah. And then when Ken came on board, I think it was like 2 or 3 years that he went through the process of, the next step, you might call it.
So he was their friend, or how did he just?
Oh, how did Ken find out? Okay, yes, good question. One of the few people that knew about the course at that time was actually a Catholic priest, and Ken was going through the process of becoming a Catholic so that he could then become a monk. And so somehow, he was a therapist, Helen and Bill were therapists. So this priest arranged a meeting with them. And this was shortly before Ken was going to go to Israel. Thank you. I was thinking Egypt. It was in my head and it wouldn't go away. To Israel. And he was going to spend some time there with the plans of coming back. Or actually, he was going to go to a monastery there. And so he met with Helen and Bill. They told him about the books, and they actually handed him the book. He read like maybe a few lines, and he said, no, I can't do this right now. I'm out of here. I got plans basically. And he took off and was gone for 4 or 5 months, I believe it was. And then when he came back, the story goes that he walked in the door and he didn't even say hello. He said, show me the books, because the whole time he was in Israel, he kept thinking about these books and he knew that this was something, it was calling to him. Yeah. And so that's how that all got started. All right. So again, the course at that point in time, almost nobody knew about it, but a very, very, very few people. And initially, actually, Helen felt the course was only for 5 people. Okay, that was her plan. You know, we're going to keep this real quiet here. 5 people. All right. And I think Bill probably had more of an inkling that it was supposed to go more worldwide, and I would guess Ken did too. So they encouraged Helen to ask Jesus, and Jesus said, yeah, someone's going to come and take it on its way. And then a while later, they again had Helen ask, and at that time, Jesus said, a woman is going to take it, but she's not quite ready. Okay, so that was how that happened. So meanwhile, Judith Skutch, she's a very buoyant, very energetic, very outgoing personality. She had, as Bill once said, about 5,000 best friends, because she just was one of those kind of people. And she was married, she had a couple kids, you know, they had a house, they had an apartment, they had all the money they needed, and she had a career, everything was seemingly on the outside just fine. And this one day, she just became very, very aware of this despair and this deep, deep, deep depression and emptiness that she had. And that was in 1975. And she actually locked herself in the bathroom, and apparently their apartment was big enough that she could pound her head on the wall and nobody would hear it. And she was screaming out, looking up, saying, is there anybody up there to help me? And, you know, we talk very often about the idea that in whatever way that each of us have come to a moment of despair or something that makes us look for something beyond with where we are. Maybe it wouldn't be that dramatic, but certainly something that there was a knowing of, there's got to be an answer beyond what the world. Yes, and that's what I'm saying. And that was hers. So a few weeks later, Judy was invited to meet with Helen and Bill, because Judy did a lot of research on paranormal and all kinds of things. And she knew that Bill and Helen were therapists, and she thought maybe they could help out and vice versa. So they went to this lunch, and during the lunch, all of a sudden, Judy said, and she doesn't even know what made her say it, she leaned over to Helen and said, you hear voices, don't you? Of which Helen, who's, you know, didn't want to talk about this, was obviously very taken by that. Bill heard it as well, and very quickly he said, come on, let's go to our office, we need to talk. At which time, actually, Bill already figured that this was the person who was going to fill that spot. So they went back to Helen and Bill's office. They took out at that time, 7 very thick binders, which weighed somewhere around 20 pounds. And they presented them to Judy. She looked at the first page, which basically said, you know, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. And she knew that this was something she needed to have. And believe it or not, they actually gave it to her to take home. She began to read it. They, of course, gave it to her with the agreement that she would not show it to anyone, which she did. As she very quickly read through it, she knew this book was for her, just like I knew it was for me when it was my time.
I'm sorry, Mary, what year was that?
That would have been 1975.
So Ken had already been involved.
Ken was already involved. The course basically, because he had done all of the editing, chaptering, you know, spelling the words, and the course was really ready to go at that point. Okay. So again, she took it home. She began to read it, knew that this was it. So after a short period of time, she basically made Xerox copies of the course, like 300 of them, and started to pass them out to her closest friends, which eventually expanded beyond that. And it wasn't very long before Judy, Helen, Bill, and Ken began to meditate on, what's this next step, which was obvious it was going to be publishing the course, but how was this going to take place? What was going to happen to bring this forward? And they kind of knew for sure it was time to publish it. And Judy decided to go and contact some of the bigger publishing companies, Doubleday being one of them. And she very quickly found that all of them wanted to edit the course. They wanted to change it. They wanted to make it more appealing to the public. And they meditated again on it. And they were basically told no one was to change it at all. And that whoever published it was to be somebody that was very serious, and that the course was going to be their life study, basically, which eventually they figured out meant Helen, Bill, Ken, or Judy. And so Judy basically took on that job, I guess you could say, not having a clue about publishing at all, but through some strange experiences, she ended up finding somebody that would help her to put that into action. They again had no money to pay for it. And so they prayed. And the next morning she was cleaning under her bed and she found this envelope that apparently while she was looking at her mail must have fallen under the bed. And it was a check for $20,000 or something like that. So she said, okay, I guess this is it. And they began to publish the course. And so that's, just normal, absolutely. So from there, yes,
You said that whoever published it had to what?
had to be somebody that was very closely related to the course, and their life work was to work with the course.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, that left Helen, Bill, Ken, and Judy. Okay. All right, so, right. So then, Judy became the president of the Foundation of Inner Peace, and they actually made two foundations, the Foundation for Teaching, which was the foundation of the Course of Miracles, which is where I studied with Ken, and then the Foundation for Inner Peace, which was the publication wing, whatever you want to call it, of it. So that went along, and obviously the course became pretty popular. So then through the years, Judy was very active promoting and supporting in the course. And she was very influential eventually in the translation process of the course. I don't know if any of you know, but the course has been translated into about 27 different languages to this moment, at least. I'm sure that will continue. But again, who's going to be the one that's going to oversee all of this? And that ended up falling on Ken's shoulders, because what they would do is, well, let me back up a little bit. Apparently, there was a Spanish speaking fellow who was doing a course on his own and began to translate the course. And he wanted to know if he could publish the course. And again, they meditated, and it was said that they were not to allow anybody else to publish the translations, and that they really wanted to oversee, make sure whoever was doing the translation was doing it, and they really knew what they were talking about. And I personally, it just makes my mind spin thinking of anybody being able to translate this, because it's so untranslatable, for a lack of a better way to put it. And, just the word usage and so on. Yeah, right.
Yeah, for an instance, I remember Ken talking about that in one of the workshops. And he was saying in German, there's no word for mind.
Exactly,
Or
exactly.
no, spirit.
Okay.
Spirit.
Mine, the Thru Linda, which is said.
Right, okay, right.
He has the German version.
Right.
No, there's no word for mine.
So how do you,
Yeah. So I know when I would go to the foundation, oftentimes there would be translators that were there. They would stay at the foundation and really work very closely with Ken. And Ken would always make sure that whoever was doing it, number one, had a very strong calling for doing this. And then he would sit down with them and go through some of the more vital points of the course and make sure that individual, or sometimes it was more than one person, would work on it on one translation and make sure that they really had a really good, strong understanding of what the course was. And so they, at that time, they translated the German and then the Spanish, and then eventually that continued to snowball. And as I said, there are 27 different translations at this point. And let's see, so yeah. And, you know, Ken would become very close with the people. I mean, he was always very, very personable. When you would go there for a workshop, he would go around and put his arm around you and, you know, try to make everybody feel as comfortable as possible. I know this isn't exactly about what I'm talking about, but I'm going to share it because there used to be a woman in the group years and years and years ago named Phyllis. She was an elderly woman. She walked with a cane or a walker. I can't remember which it was. And she, well, that's a whole nother story we're not going to get into now, maybe a break. But anyway, she would hear Shar and I talk about Ken, and she go, oh, Ken, you know, he just can't be all that, you know. And so one time she did actually come with us to the foundation. She sat right in the front, and Ken at one point in time was talking about something. And she said, you know, rose her hand and she said, Ken, you know, could you explain this or that? He said, well, I'll tell you what, can you hold off and I will respond to that later on in the workshop. And a few minutes later, she put her hand up again. She said, well, how am I going to know that you're answering the question? He said, oh, when I get to it, I'll jump up and down. So that just changed her heart and her approach to Ken completely. And then one of the days we were there, we were eating dinner, and for some of the sessions, they actually provided food, and then other like week-long ones, you would bring your own food and prepare it and whatnot. And so he actually came over by Helen, or by Phyllis, excuse me, and he brought her a book. And he said, you know, here's a gift, here's a book. And he turned the book over and there was a picture of himself on the back of the book. And he goes, well, which one of us is more handsome? So he had an amazing, amazing sense of humor. And he was, as I said, very warm. Yeah, just pretty amazing. All right. So again, Judith has supported the course in numerous ways throughout the years. And she was always very humble. And I recently was listening to a tape, and she said, since the beginning, she's been in a group that they call SLG. And what that stands for is Slow Learning Group, because, you know, this is a learning process. And you think somebody that's been there since the beginning, you know, why doesn't she have it? And yet this is a process. It's a continued process. And I often talk about the idea that this is a very cyclical course. And what I mean by that is the same ideas are repeated over and over in a variety of different ways because we are spiritually retarded and we need to hear it over and over and over for it to be digested, for it to really take hold, and then not only for us to grasp it intellectually, but then to put it into practice in our lives. And so I think it's just really sweet that.
I think Jesus knew. I mean, he's even
He
said,
has to, yeah,
he knew how afraid we really were.
exactly.
We had no clue.
No,
At least
absolutely.
I had.
None of us
How
have a
deep
clue.
seated
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
fear is.
So her name has been spoken in the hallowed halls of A Course in Miracles almost from the very beginning. She was a vital piece of the puzzle of the development of the course. We owe a great deal of gratitude to Judith Skutch Whitson for her contribution to the course.
Where'd she live?
For, you know, I think later in life, she was in California and Bill was in California. This was, you know, after, yeah. But she was somewhere else before that, because I think she was closer to where Ken was, but then they moved, so, yeah.
How did your marriage work? She became drawn to this.
Well, actually, she was married a couple times, and the first relationship obviously didn't work out because she found another one, but it was a very taxing relationship. But even though they did get divorced, eventually they did have a very healing experience. And then eventually her first husband actually even came and helped out at the foundation in a variety of different ways, as well as her her second husband. And I just heard this story about her second husband, who he was in something related to the government, and they went to, well, I'm not sure exactly. I won't agree or disagree. It could have been, but anyways, they went to some country to meet the president of the country, excuse me. And apparently the guy died, and so they didn't know what to do with him. So they sent him off to another country. And while he was at the other country, he got food poisoning and he literally almost died. And so apparently he said to God, Jesus, whatever, and he wasn't in the course at this time. I've had a good life and things have been great and I appreciate it. But, if you have something else for me, I'm willing to see what that is. And shortly after that, he ended up meeting Judy. They got married and he became a big part of some of the projects that took place in the course as well. Yes, Linda.
When I hear this, and I know I've gone through this, it's like all the players were set in motion. When you're ready, they all come together.
Yes, yep.
And because of what she did to produce the book, channeling through Jesus, it's a very high power. And what I've seen before, I know my teacher, when you're set to do something, you have a protection. Nobody can intervene at all. You can stop. And watching her go through this, there's an obedience.
Oh, yeah.
You have to follow the obedience. Because you were chosen, you came in here to do this. And I know my teacher said that she was told many times, I don't want to come in and do this. I don't want to teach. But she knew she had to.
Yep.
Because it's that obedience. You feel it inside.
Is that Judy or Helen you're talking about?
Well,
Both.
pretty much all of them.
I mean, every player that was set to put this, even the publisher, because I know from other publishers that they want to change
Yes.
wording.
Yeah, that's why they ended up self-publishing. I
That's
don't know
how-
if I
that's what I'm saying,
specified. Yeah, yeah.
So you have to
How they
have-
knew not to do
Yeah.
that was how they, even though the publisher was pressuring them about something, they were taking Jesus's pressure more.
Yep.
More
Yeah.
seriously.
Yes.
It will go the way it's supposed to be, the right words. And there were, when I listened to Helen and her life, that she would want to change. a
Oh,
couple of
she
words
did
here and
very
there.
often, especially in the beginning. Yes.
Come right back.
Yep.
You can't do it.
I don't remember the guy's name. I remember the guy that was at odds with Ken. Something, he wanted to do something with the
Right.
course.
Right.
And Ken was very adamant.
Oh, I know who you mean. You mean with the copyright and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, all that.
Oh,
Yep. And, I think again, as I mentioned, that Judy was humble and she continued to work on this. She tells stories of, between the four of them, they had their problems. I mean, Helen and Bill obviously did, because that was what brought the course to begin with. But they all had their moments where, we all have our way of thinking about it. And they would do their best to come together and try to meditate and come to a resolve of a peaceful nature. And some of them were pretty miraculous. There was a story I just heard of, actually Judith's second husband and Ken were having an issue around one of the translations. And they were both just, holding their sides. And so Judy decided, and her husband decided to go and actually be physically with Ken so that they could see if they could work this out. and they were both, not in a very good place. And so before they went to bed that night, Judy said, why don't we pray on this? Of which they did. In the morning, he woke up and he was all chilled, doing fine. And he said something shifted during the night. And then this was Judith's husband, yeah, her husband, yes. And then when Ken came to the door, Judy said she could tell Ken was pretty nervous because he was usually pretty calm, but he looked nervous. And her husband Whit put his arms around him and they hugged and it was done. And, I think the beauty of stories like that are they never had a conversation. It was healed without words because of the intent. Yes. Yeah. And I'm going to just throw this in too. Some of you probably have heard the story that Helen used to go shopping and Jesus would tell her, on what rack to find the coat or whatever. And, buying green pantyhose because back then it was cool to wear your matching pantyhose to go with your outfit. And I used to kind of, yeah, well, well, I don't think most of us wear a lot of pantyhose, at least I don't.
Jesus got her. She was cool with Jesus.
Yes, and so I used to kind of laugh and say, I think we need to have a I Hate Helen Schuckman Day every year because, Jesus doesn't tell me where to buy my pantyhose. He told her where to buy the pantyhose. And, after a number of years, it really occurred to me that, that was Jesus' way of holding Helen's hand to walk through something that was almost unbearable for her. And that each and every one of us will have experiences of a connected nature. We're going to have dark nights of the soul. Somebody turn up the temperature a little bit. I'm a little cold and I see people turn it up, yeah, warmer, please. Thank you, Miriam. We're all going to struggle in our own way, in our own form, like Linda was saying with her teacher, the undoing process of, who I think I am when I walk in the door and who I am when I walk out the door at the end is not going to be the same person. And I so often talk about the idea that, it's not really a classroom unless it hits below the belt. And it's going to really rip the carpet out from underneath what you value the most. Not because it's trying to take away what you value, but it's about taking you to the understanding that it was never valuable in the first place. But to the degree we cling to any belief or thought or prejudice or whatever, I'm right, it's going to hurt when it falls.
And we all signed up for this.
Not only did we all sign up for this, Helene, it took me many years of teaching to come to realize we've all been called. We really have. And, the ones that stick with this course are people that were called on a very deep level. And certainly people come, they get a little and they leave and that's what they need. But it's almost like you can't not do this.
The thing we start out fighting winds up
Oh,
pulling us.
yes. And we're so happy when we find out that it's okay, that that's really the answer. And, I know I don't share this a lot with everybody, but for my journey, a lot of my undoing process in the course was I was brought up very Catholic, and to all of a sudden be teaching this course that is like totally, out of the left field of my life. Well, it is, but if you've been, if your image of who you are is connected with that way of being, it's been a very difficult process of letting go. And for me, my experience has been as I open to more of this, slowly this begins to fall away. But there's a lot of in-between moments of, tug of war and great pain and extreme difficulty. Let me just put it that way. But
People want to know what the hell happened to you.
well, and then there's that, but who cares about
I
that?
think all the people in the world got to come in with something.
Oh, absolutely. And exactly.
Some program
Yes,
that needs to be looked at. I
exactly.
mean, this whole thought system of the ego is fantastically nuts,
Yes.
just totally nuts.
Yeah.
And the only one responsible is me.
Yes. And yes, exactly.
but that brings a lot of peace along with that thought that I'm the only one that has to work on this.
Yes, and it's all about me undoing what I've
So
set
the
up.
whole world isn't only about me because the whole story is
It's
in
all
my head.
about me. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But that's not our experience on planet Earth.
No,
My experience is this is hard. And Mary Ann, did you have something you
I
wanted
was
to?
just gonna say, how long have you been doing this?
I started reading the course in 1989. About 3 months after that, I started going to classes here.
Here?
Yeah, here. And about 3 months after that, a group of people went to see Ken Wapnick, of which I was one of the people that went. And so that was in 1990. And then I went to see Ken as often as I possibly could over the time that he was alive until they moved to California. And then I went a couple times when he was in California. So, and I've been teaching since 1994.
Also 5 years after you started the course.
Yep.
Did you go see Ken a lot then?
Oh,
In
gosh,
New-
yes.
in,
It's
New York?
in New York. Yeah, I used to go 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Did you ever go out to Temecula?
Yes, I went like 3 times, twice when he was alive and then once after he passed away. And actually, I was signed up to go to a class when he got sick and then it got canceled. So
Did you say last?
it got canceled because he was too ill to teach the
Okay.
class, but I was signed up for that last class. So I always wish that that had happened because it would have been nice to have sort of closure. Of course, I'm speaking as a spoiled brat because I got to see him so many times, so I'm not going to complain, but it would have been nice. And I wish after exploring a little bit more about the appreciation of Judy, I wish I would have had an opportunity to meet her as well. But
When did they go to California?
about 2000, 2001, somewhere in that area, Barb. Yeah. And it, well, most of you, well, some of you, but not most of you were not there. In New York, it had been a boys' school. So they actually had housing. They provided, like on a weekend one, they would have housing, there would be food provided, and that all came with your price for your ticket. And then they would have sometimes week-long ones, and the week-long ones, you would bring your own food. And it was on this, huge acreage. You could walk forever. And then when they moved to Temecula, it was on an industrial parkway on the cement lot. And there was this building. And I mean, the building inside was very lovely and everything, but it was just so different. So,
Yeah, I think that's the opposite too, that, California would have been more.
yeah, upbeat,
Is
whatever.
that
yeah.
where a foundation for A Course in Miracles is at? Is it California?
Now it is actually in Nevada, yes. Couple years ago, they decided that Gloria's son was going to take over, and that's where he lived. And so Jeff Siebert, who was one of the facilitators at the foundation, who I, had classes with as well, he's the only one now that has moved there. Gloria is stayed back in Temecula, or not Temecula, but yeah, Temecula. So, yeah, and I'm sure she probably oversees it from there, but she's not involved anymore. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I used to go to this retreat in the summer.
Mhm.
For a unit, with the unit
Right.
church retreat, which is Great Lakes Regional Retreat. And the last time I was supposed to go, a guy from Chicago, some famous minister, was gonna give a whole workshop, and I forget what his name was, but then the title of the summer, the title of the retreat was on returning to God. What an idea. And, but he died. He didn't,
Right,
yeah,
right.
he didn't host it because he died. And I thought, wow, he called that one, right? Well, I guess any workshop or any, retreat was not going to be as good as what he. was gonna
Well,
want.
sure,
So
sure,
I just
sure,
thought
sure.
that was crazy, like,
Yeah.
what comes up.
So did you like Ken?
Oh, gosh, yes, 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 yes.
What
And
did you like about him?
well, I'll tell you, Barb, when I would go to the workshops, especially initially, I would feel like Ken had a wrench, the biggest one you could possibly find. A wrench, the biggest one you could possibly find. And every time I would go there, it would whack me behind the knees and I'd fall on my face. Okay. Because, well, you come here for 2 hours. Okay. If you're there all week long and Ken's just pounding you on the head with all of this stuff, I mean, and I don't know anybody on the planet that can use as many words as Ken can in a sentence, and he just dot, 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 dot. And the concepts, and as we know, Ken does not mince for words in regard to the essence of what the course is. And he would just chop, 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 chop. And I would feel like I was wrung out, and I felt like I would go home and process all this stuff that he would talk about. And then I'd sign up for another class. But within, I just always had this sense that I didn't always understand what he was saying. And I certainly didn't like a lot of what he was saying because it was so anti my ego. But I just always felt that what he was saying was true. And that the course was coming from a place of love, that nothing I had ever been in kind. And I've read, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of books on spirituality and whatnot. And they're all good in their own way, but nothing connected the dots and made things as clear as the course did for me. And I really feel that Ken, when they said he was considered to be the premier teacher of the course, he knew it through and through, and he taught it from a very deep level that wasn't always easy to take. But again, why did I like him? For that reason, because I really felt that, I used to go to the foundation, people, oh yeah, well, I would have got this on my own. And it's like, there is absolutely positively no way from now to the, kingdom come or whatever, that I would have been reading this course and come to understand it on the level that he taught it through his teachings and figured it out on my own. But it just wouldn't happen. Bill and Helen. Well, I think, again,
They must have been.
right, exactly. And Ken would
Yeah, but
even,
like you said, he had his issues.
oh,
like everybody.
absolutely,
Okay.
exactly.
And
Oh,
in
yes.
dealing with his issues.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I mean, the course basically points you.
Right.
It points you.
Exactly.
The section
Yep.
on responsibility for sight is one of the key points.
Yeah, but it doesn't point you unless you
Oh, yes,
understand
it does. It speaks to you.
Right.
Right, and his level, but his level of understanding, from my perception, and I never saw him. I've listened to countless workshops of his, and his level of understanding had to come from experience. It had to. There's no doubt in my mind.
Right.
He understood this course word for word and beyond the words, because he talks about reading this course as a symphony. Go beyond the words. I understand that intellectually, and I've had moments of that, but
Sure.
I, just like Mary Ann said, there's no way I would understand this book without Ken Walker.
Right. And Mary Ann, I think when we're trying to evaluate a question like that, we're looking from this lifetime. We don't know what Helen, Bill, Ken, Judith, we don't know, what parts they played in other times that made them ready to be the vehicles through which this came forth. And just like we were saying a few minutes ago, that we're all called here. Why was I called here and not why somebody else walking down the street is not called here? I don't know. All I know is I'm called here.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's what is on your own understanding.
Yes, yeah. And maybe some people could, I'm not saying they're wrong or they're
That's the
not.
way it's taught in
Yeah.
the other community churches. Was that somebody just reads it, you read it, oh,
Figure it
yeah,
out,
what
right.
that means. And there's no in-depth, or, we just skipped over the parts that did.
Didn't sound good.
Because that's the way people do things.
Well,
it's
sure.
never about the words.
Well, it's never about the words.
No,
Yes.
it's what
yes,
happens
yes.
when I open the book and read the
Right,
words
right,
or
right,
practice, you know.
exactly.
Well, I think
practicing quotes.
the other people doing it just made, people stand out with saying things like, this is all an illusion every time anyone else would open their mouth. So he kind of had to take over because nobody had explained that.
Yeah.
How it was. We had a psychologist, an optometrist, 3 other people. And they're still talking about having people do the Course in Miracles on my own. Sorry, found it.
And be very aware, you can say the words, you can memorize the words of the course, but until it becomes who you are and you live it from the understanding of it, those are just nice words. And we're all going to start from that level. It can't not be any other way. But I know I've even been in the process of teaching a class where something went from here to here. And it was like, whoa, the difference between having it intellectually and really being, having that expressed from your heart's totally a different experience.
Some ouch in there somewhere.
There's an ouch in there somewhere, sure. And then an aha as well, yeah. And I mean, I've even seen students in the middle of a class where they just get something and you can, it's like the light bulb
All the
just,
light bulbs go on.
yeah. And then there's,
Sometimes my house says I'm like,
and then you can also see the student walk in who's like this, that they can't take another breath because they're about had it, but
You're
and-
banging your head against the wall.
and you're banging your
So
head
where is
against
it? Come on, Jesus, I need it now, show me now.
yes,
Like Judy.
yes, exactly.
So you said all of us are called?
Oh, absolutely.
I like that.
Yes. And Ken actually has a set of books that are, let's see, what is it called?
Two volumes.
Yeah, 2 volumes,
Somewhere from-
right. All, instead of what the Bible says, all are called, few choose to listen. Somehow we're listening.
You said Ken has a book, but
He has a
Yeah,
two volume book called,
About that?
yeah, about that, yeah.
all are called, but
Few choose to listen, yes.
Well, you're so identified as a body.
Well, sure.
It's-
Yep.
It's not easy to
Yep.
turn the battleship,
It's not easy at all. And
because this is a
right.
battleground,
Oh my gosh, absolutely, big time.
just the way that thought system is this,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
we are insane.
And we are insane.
and the ego thought system is coming back.
And we're addicted to it. And we want it.
That's the secret.
Oops.
It disperses a few of those
Yeah.
lines. Right, somebody said that.
We bought into the story the ego tells us at the time of the terror took place.
Absolutely. But we bought into it again because we wanted to buy
We
into
want it to
it.
be special.
As long as we want to be special, different, and in charge and right, we want it
You know,
above
Here,
this.
you're special who you think, but in heaven, you're all the same.
And we wanted to be on the throne. And I highly recommend that you observe yourself when you want to be on the throne. That's what you're saying. You're saying, I want to be God right now. Thank you very much. See you later, dude. I don't need your help.
Is that when we're judging that?
Oh, that's when we think we know anything.
It always goes back to that.
It always goes back.
I wanna be on the throne.
Anytime you're thinking anything, basically, because you're thinking with the mind instead of the thought.
We're control of all.
Thinking with the mind instead of the what?
Okay, so there's a place in the course where it talks about the idea that we don't really think. The only real thought is the capital T thought, which represents love. So if I think I'm thinking, I'm not really thinking because I'm that all thoughts of that nature are coming from the ego,
Which are meaningless.
which are ultimately meaningless.
And basically the past.
And not peaceful, but competitive. Competitive kind of thinking about what's gonna
And
happen
it's one
next.
against the other.
Yes.
So that's what I recognize that
That's the thought
yesterday.
system.
Recognize that
But the
yesterday.
course
I was
tries to
talking-
get you to the point where it's not that you don't see competition, but you use it from the Holy Spirit's point of view.
And
You
whatever that,
change the purpose.
whatever that means is that you feel peaceful about it. That's the whole key to it. Because I think that's when I get riled up, I know, and that's the perfect thing for me, because I want to be happy. I don't want to be all riled up about something. And I still keep falling into this hole with it, well, like it's been a specific individual. Write about it, write about it.
Yeah, but
ask
we
the
say
Holy
we
Spirit.
want to be happy, but the truth is, Andrew, we don't.
Well, then I just keep writing about it, because I don't want to be miserable.
I
So
understand that.
I kept writing and writing and writing about this person and how I feel when this happens, and I kept referring it back to him.
You want that person to be exactly as they are,
And then I
Did-
guess. that I did.
disappointing you. And that way you're entitled to project your guilt onto them.
But it
That's the
doesn't
whole
make me-
course.
Doesn't make me happy.
Well, but I think there comes a point in time where, yes, I want to be right. But if that becomes so painful, then I'm willing to see a different answer. And when that moment comes, we have to drop this to come to this, even if that's for a moment. And that's really what we're
That's
working
the
towards.
answer.
Yes,
Yeah, that's where.
Only an instant.
So I took out that.
only an instant is all that's being asked of
Right.
us.
I asked myself who was suffering in this situation.
Exactly. In,
Yeah.
across
Really?
the board.
Driving
Really, I
around.
mean, if
Right,
you really
there's no
look,
idea.
that's why it's only me. Nobody else gives a damn.
If there's a way to stop the suffering, I've read about it the last 8 years somewhere in here, so how to stop the suffering. And then I can go to that page and say, oh, I remember when I wasn't suffering. And maybe I'll try that again. Just sit still and be quiet. You can be as quiet as you want to be, but if your mind still says, help me, help me, help me, Jesus, that's another thing that you're on this treadmill, on
Yep.
this wheel, Instead, we get on the merry-go-round with our children. We love the merry-go-round, except everybody's afraid of it. And they get on there. And the merry-go-round goes round and round and round in a very comfortable way. Music, so that's the merry-go-round. That's,
Yep.
And our minds are always doing these.
Sure.
That's the way our brains are all convoluted, why we repeat ourselves, or why we say things over and over, or whatever. So I look forward to the merry-go-round.
Well, I like that. Instead of the roller coaster ride, the merry-go-round with music. That is kind of a sweet,
think so.
because they're
You know,
totally very different experiences.
Yeah, just the merry,
Yeah.
because we have to keep going back over, because people say, I just said that, I just repeated that. Why do I
Right,
have to say it
right.
again? Why do I have to learn this stuff again? Well, it's not learning it again, it's learning it in another context.
Yes.
We keep bringing our context to it, our ego to it.
Thank you.
Yep. Then it works, then it's okay, because it doesn't bother you so much. It's very, it's comforting
Right.
to know that there's a way and it's
Right.
in there.
Yep.
And once you get that, then.
Too bad we're robots.
Well, yeah. Robots that we program to be the way we are.
You got it.
Yep. All right,
To
anybody?
undo that program
Yeah,
takes time.
takes time. Yep, takes time.
Or just an instant.
Or just an instant, but it always lays in the hand of, am I willing to drop what I'm experiencing? As long as and I can think I want to drop it, but I'm doing this, clenching it with every ounce of who I am. And to just wait, I don't know.
Well, it tells you to let go of the valueless.
Well,
At the
everything is
head of the
valueless.
list, Number one, you don't know what's valuable.
Correct.
And at the head of the list of valueless is this. Now, tell me how many people are willing to let go of it.
We're not. We're absolutely not. Yep. And so we struggle back and forth until the time comes where we really come to the point, as that one line says, when you only want the peace of God, it's yours. As long as I have any attachment to anything about me, the individuality, what I think is right, and on and on and on, I don't want just, what do you got for me, dude?
It's so integral to look at your resistance to this course.
Right.
It's huge.
Yes.
And I have had moments of awareness when I'm upset that I don't want to listen. I don't want this. Go away. Push
Yes.
this away.
Yes. But I
And-
think,
and
go
it's
ahead.
becoming easier to do that and be okay with it.
Yep. Yep.
Because there's days where this is being embraced and then there's days.
And
where
then
it's
there's
being
other
pushed
days.
away. You know,
Yep, I do.
Once again, duality, there it is.
Yes, yeah. Yes, indeed. And, to me, it took me a while to figure it out. If I am honest with today, I can't go there. That is a step ahead of, I think I'm so holy, I don't understand why the angels aren't coming out of the sky to take me up. Because then you're, excuse the expression, bullshitting yourself, okay? When you're really honest, okay, today, there's no way I'm ready to do that. You're being very honest with the experience you're having, and you're opening the door to a possibility instead of saying, I got it under control.
And Ken says if you can just say, I don't want to do this today because I'm afraid. And
Yes.
just be very matter of fact about it. That's being 100% honest with Jesus. I don't want to hear what you have to say today, Jesus. Sorry. I'm too frightened.
And literally, that's absolutely what's going on. We talk all about all the stuff that goes on here, but the facts are, I'm afraid of this. That's why we set up this whole camouflage, was because we were afraid to go back. And so you can't push yourself back. You can't force yourself back. But as we continue to practice the course, continue to do the workbook lessons, continue to put it in practice in your life, one little willingness at a time, each time we're cracking the door open a little bit more, and the fear level starts to decrease. And one day we'll open that door all the way and walk through. But you can't make that happen. You have to allow that. So be honest with today, I can't do that.
Marianne,
Oh, yeah.
so in those moments when you find yourself afraid or afraid of losing parts of yourself, you just need to just kind of sit with it and accept it. And
Yes, I would just say, okay, Holy Spirit, right now I'm too afraid, show me how to come to the point where I'm not afraid.
okay, well, it's good to know that that's part of the course in developing within yourself. So
Definitely.
thank you.
Because the rest of the courses make you take a test, see if you get it, can you spout back what they said, so that this is a proving ground for reality,
Yes.
or does it work? And that's what the test is. You're allowed to say, this is horseshit I've done, and wait.
Yes.
And then it's gonna come back and it's gonna mean something. You have, you've made decisions, you made all kinds of crazy decisions your whole life. And all of a sudden you make a decision, that's it, I don't want to listen anymore. We'll see how that's gonna work. And it's just a different, you don't have to take the test, but you are the test.
Yeah.
And man, when you're getting grilled, you're gonna look for the answers in the book
Yes,
real
you
fast.
will.
You don't have to, you can't cheat. It's just how it's gonna happen.
Yep.
And you're gonna have to, and that's what makes it work, is that you don't feel nonplussed by the whole spiel. Oh, it's too much of a book, it's too much this. You just go, oh my God.
Somewhere along with that, if you're willing to say, give up, I have no more answers.
Well, that's it.
And that's wrong in our culture. That's
I
not
don't know
the
what the
answer.
culture says.
But I mean, that's
I'm
what the
just
ego
saying.
says, that that's wrong to give up.
That's
That's
what transpired.
how we've been taught our whole life. Everything,
Right.
every way we do it according to the way they say, they say you're wrong. You have, come on, you have to learn your ABCs this way, whatever. And so this is the only piece of information I've ever read.
That's just supporting the whole ego
Well,
thought system.
exactly. And we
That's
set it
all.
up that way, of course.
It's
Yep.
set up that way.
Yeah, so this book is set up so that you can dismantle everything you want to, but nobody's gonna yell at you if you don't get to plan B.
You don't need the book to do that. You can dismantle it following the principles of the book.
Well, that's what the book is for, principles, not for that, how many pages or what,
I don't know, God. I give it to you, Helen. That's all I got to do. In every instant that I think I know, I don't know.
It just turns our whole life upside down, the way lead us into the Holy Spirit, out of all the stuff that's in there that's driving us crazy. That's what it does. Even if, that's why people come back. They want to know that. We have to constantly get that reinforced, because how do I know what's going to happen to the water bill and all this crap? How do I know that? I just have to go with it. And I say, God knows. Now we can say that with confidence. And I'm going to they're telling you something they don't even know, and you're scared out of their minds, so.
All right, I think we will take a break, but before we do, I just want to say thank you to all the people that come in early, help me set up the room, put out the food, help me stay at the end to clean up and prepare and whatnot. I so appreciate your help. And I have to come in here like 2:30 to set up the computer and whatever, so I don't say thank you every week, and also for the people who bring items to share. I don't get a chance to say thank you every week, but I just want to know how much I appreciate you being here and supporting me and helping me out. And also I want to thank everybody who contributes money for the basket and people who send online. I appreciate that as well. Conversation around Judy or the foundation or any burning questions? Oh, you're welcome.
That there was another person.
I know. I kind of feel bad, because she really was so vital. And other than once or twice, I've never really spoken a lot about her. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to hear it.
They're gonna have some kind of service that you can join online.
Oh, okay. Thank you. for
They
reminding
don't
us.
have the info yet on what day or whatever.
Well, if I'll probably get it, but if you get it before I do, would you
Yeah,
send it to me? And that way I can send out an email.
Sure.
I love the way she talked about Kenan's life. I had that down the path.
Well,
I got it from those.
right. Well, and I think that the beautiful thing, even if we all shared stories about how we found the course, we all have a little different story of what transpired. Some people, it's a book falling off the shelf, hitting them in the head. Or you hear it. I mean, for me, it was like I kept hearing the reference of the Course in Miracles, and I finally thought, I guess I better get this Course in Miracles thing. So I got the book and started reading it, and I was reading it, and it could have been in French because it didn't make any sense at all intellectually. But every once in a while, I read a line and I could just feel my heart well up and tears would start to fall. And it was November, and my daughter said, "Mom, do you want me to get you that for Christmas?" And I said, "No, I got to have this now," because I knew it was just no question. This was for me.
Some people find it by Google.
What was that?
Some people find it by Google by mistake.
Oh, yeah. Or she's saying that she found this group because she was looking, she lives in California, and she was looking for a Unity church in Westlake, California. And she ended up finding us. So go figure. There you go.
Yeah.
And she was pretty much stuck with online because
Right,
nobody was
right.
closed up. Like,
Yep.
so how
Well,
do you have-
yes, with the,
How do you have God? when you
yeah,
can't-
where can you find God when there's
how do you
COVID,
find
right?
God when everything's closed? Yeah.
Zoom. You can find God on Zoom during COVID.
Here you go. See, there's a plan, and it's bigger than we are, guys. Bigger than we are.
That's what's so mind blowing. That's what keeps you going too, is these like off the wall things that happen,
Yes.
People you run into, you haven't seen for 10 or 15 years, they're walking across the street, they go, "Hi," like they know you from years ago, you're like, what, wonder what this is about.
Yes.
So did the person,
Judith?
Judy, did she ever find a Unity church in Westlake?
Oh, no, I don't know. Did you ever look to see if there was one in actually California? Or you were just so
Yeah.
happy with our group that you decided to go with us?
The search was over.
The search is over forever, right?
I'm going to say that kind of a question is like asking someone, do I look fat in these jeans? Like there's no winning answer for that.
Well, we're not putting you on the,
What I will say is the reason I found you is I saw a Unity church in the Westlake neighborhood of San Francisco and then did the search. So I don't know, open or yet, not yet. I haven't checked back, but
okay.
there you go.
I still think that we're in Westlake, California.
No, she knows. But we immediately knew that there was something bigger than the two of us that was going on, which was pretty cool.
No coincidences.
Absolutely none. Okay.
Out here, you can stay at my house.
Oh, you got an invitation if you ever come to Cleveland.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking at the break, well, thank you. Cleveland has a fantastic orchestra. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that I might be in the neighborhood. And if anybody's ever in San Francisco, just ask Marianne. You have my permission, Marianne, to give my contact information to anybody in this course. I would be delighted to show you around the city and meet you and have a cup of coffee.
All right, sounds wonderful. Let me go call the airlines. Thank you. That's very generous of both of you. There you go. Well, we're all come. Well, wait a minute.
Miracles field trip. That's a good one.
All right, let's get back to business here. So we are going to continue in our little booklet, the Song of Prayer. And on page 10, if you have the pamphlet, I don't know what page it would be in the book. And again, I just want to real quickly review. Last week, we talked about what the definition of forgiveness to destroy was. And there are basically 4 choices you can pick, none of which are good, but they will all be forgiveness to destroy rather than forgiveness to connect and love. And the first one would be, I'm a better person than you and you made a mistake and I'll forgive you for it, which would be one of the forms of forgiveness to destroy. We're all unworthy. We all are sinners. So we'll just, bind in our inability to be good. A martyr who, this isn't gonna bother me if you call me a bad name. I am tough. I can hold up, I can stand firm. Or another one of the real popular ones of bargaining or compromising, which we know so well. That would be number 4. And that's, I'll do this for you if you do that for me kind of thing. And, to know very well that we're all going to continue to probably do all of those in some form or another, but to begin to become aware, oh, there I go again, I'm bargaining, or I'm pretending I'm more holy than another person. And the most important thing is to realize that all of these are coming from this side of the chart. And when they're coming from this side of the chart, they are not going to be healed because this is still intact and we're just trying to find an answer here. It is only when this is changed to this that the real healing occurs. Yeah, go ahead.
The whole legal thought system is made up of unforgiveness.
Absolutely.
So, unless you're connected with the course, you don't know what the course is reference to forgiveness is.
Absolutely. And, this is again, a very, in my opinion, very good example. If you hear the word forgiveness in the course and you're immediately and you're studying it on your own completely and you think, oh, forgiveness, well, I'll just forgive this person, and never connecting the dots to the understanding of the depth of what the course says, you can be dancing along thinking you're doing exactly what the course is saying and not even have a clue.
All the metaphysics that it's presenting, even in your daily life, you got to keep that in the back of your mind and realize,
Absolutely.
well, there is no world, and everything in this world is an illusion anyhow. So what are you really forgiving?
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking this morning, if you have a dream, you don't try to forgive the dream in the morning,
Yeah.
Of course not.
Yeah.
but isn't that the
It's
same?
exactly- it's
I mean,
exactly-
I just
this
thought,
is
wow,
a
that's
dream.
a really good way to look at it because we don't think of it from that perspective. When the course says, well, it never really happened. When you're looking at your life, it's like, what are you talking about? This never really happened. I'm going to tell you how this happened here. And if you look at it,
seems that way.
it absolutely does seem that way.
You're victimized by your dream. 'Cause
Yes.
You can't have any control over that. That's been really interesting, useful piece of information for me, because I get the idea that the dream is something that I'm somehow also involved in. It's not I'm not victimized by it.
Aren't
Correct.
dreams a conglomeration of your thoughts? So
Absolutely.
you really are involved.
Right,
It's your thoughts.
right. That's been, that whole thing. So today's lesson is forgiveness is the only gift I give. And
That's your only function.
Yeah,
Right.
according to the
because
course.
it's the only gift I want.
What lesson are you talking about?
297. Forgiveness is the only
Right.
gift I give.
And when you
This is the
forgive,
key to
give,
that.
when you forgive, you are offering forgiveness for that brother when you're doing it from here, not here, you're giving it to yourself.
Right.
which leads us into the line that I'm going to read, which is, and do not ever think you can see sin in anyone except yourself. And again, that's not our natural flow, not the natural response when I see sin in somebody else. It's you're an idiot and would you just leave me alone so I can be okay?
And that's what you need forgiveness for. Forgiveness changes that dynamic.
Absolutely.
Well, Jesus, in that one section where he says, you're never upset at your brother for his sins, but only your own.
Yes. And
Remember this, and you say, how many years did you say?
thousands and thousands.
Thousands.
Well, and that's again a good example of the cyclical nature of the course, that this theme is played out in a variety of places throughout the course. Maybe the words are twisted around slightly different, but he's basically saying the same thing. I am responsible for what I see. Whatever I see in my brother is really what's going on in me. And he's very aware this is a concept that's very, very difficult for us to embrace. And even if we intellectually get it, is that my response when something comes up? Not mine. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm getting a catching. Yes, I'm catching a little faster, but dang, it just gets you just like that. That's the disco ball of life.
Different angle, different year.
Yeah.
If you're fortunate,
We're doing it,
you get a
John
little clue
Travolta.
before it happens, and you just become quiet.
Yes, and yes, I have
If you're
had that happen.
fortunate.
Yes, and
If you're willing.
yeah,
If you're willing.
Yeah.
Fortune has nothing to do with it.
There's times where that reminder's there and it's like,
mhm.
I want to land base this person. So I'm
Call
gonna go ahead
me
and do it.
tomorrow. Maybe I'll listen then.
That's what you were talking about last week, Rose, about the dog, the leash, the bike path. You had that moment.
Yep.
When you saw.
It was, that was integral. because
Yeah, that was cool.
I really could see, and of course, that's just the mind attacking Rose. But, because first there's the decision for the ego, and then that gets projected onto Rose. And then Rose just projects it onto the guy on the bike. And then the guy on the bike probably down the road's projecting it onto somebody else. I mean,
Right.
it's just a snowball thing.
But isn't that the same as the story where the guy gets yelled at by the boss goes home and yells at the wife
Yep.
yells at the kids, and then the kids kick the
Somebody
cat.
kicks the cat.
It's the same thing, it's,
It's just we pollute the world.
yes.
Here we are, trying to be environmentally friendly.
Oh, gosh,
and we're-
so true.
Spewing everywhere.
And I love the story that you shared last week as well, that you at first it was, he's an idiot, and then it's, I did this wrong, and then it's, well, that all the different
it's first-
facets.
You,
I don't know which one what
Yeah, it
the
was
direction
first-
was, but,
She
You
self-accused
idiot.
herself.
okay.
you
Yeah.
idiot, you shouldn't have been on your phone. And then it was like, but the cool thing for me was the moment that, the thought came up, it's his fault. I saw that.
Yeah. Nice.
I was aware of that.
That is the cool.
That was the really cool, there's the process.
Why
Yes.
you hopped right into that red dot and there you were.
Yes, and it is a process, and initially we might not necessarily be able to see the whole picture, but then there comes those times where it just was like this, I'm sure, but it is all right there, because now it's almost like we must slow down a little bit so that we can see it all somehow.
And I have been asking. for that.
Okay.
I have been
Okay.
asking for that. I wanted to see that, and it was slowed down
Okay.
because it's so in nanoseconds
Yep.
that you can't catch it.
Yes, exactly.
And that's our attraction for guilt.
Sure is. And again,
That you wanted it that much is what you got.
Yep.
It seems maybe like it was convoluted, but in that moment it was perfect. It's just that instant, that holy instant of, oh.
And just one person in that process.
Yep.
Breaking that, it doesn't matter who it is, because
Right.
there is
yes,
nobody's here, there's no others. So it doesn't matter who it is. one mind in that process stops. And it changes everything.
Yes,
It wasn't gonna be the dog.
right.
Well, it could have been a dog.
Well, I don't know.
The dog didn't care about any of it from
Well,
what
No,
I
I mean,
right,
the
that's
dog
what she
is- I
means,
don't
yeah.
know. That's my opinion of dogs, I know.
All right, so I know I read this before, but I'm going to read it again because I think it's just so, paragraph that starts with, "This is the great deception." I don't have numbers on my paragraphs, so. Did you find
Page
it?
12. Page 12 in the little book.
What's the
The subtitle is Forgiveness of Yourself.
Forgiveness of yourself.
Correct.
It's down at 9.
What paragraph again?
The one that starts
She
with, "This
stated
is the
she was
great,
on 10.
well, I know, but they're not all on the same pages.
No, but
Yeah.
I think this is the same. thing.
Oh, you have that one,
Yeah.
but she's got hers in her book, so I don't know what pages. All right, so
Yeah,
let's see,
that was-
one,
that one was last-
Oh, that's,
last week.
it's paragraph 5
5, yeah,
on page
This is the
10.
great deception of the world.
that's the one, yes.
Great.
So again, that line before it was, "And do not ever think you can see sin in anyone except yourself. This is the great deception of the world, and you, the great deceiver of yourself. It always seems to be another who is evil, and in his sin, you are the injured one. How could freedom be possible if this were so? You would be slave to everyone, for what he does entails your fate, your feelings, your despair, your or hope, your misery or joy. You have no freedom unless he gives it to you. And being evil, he can only give of what he is. You cannot see his sins and not your own, but you can free him and yourself as well. And may I say, if we really get this, it's going to be a lot easier ride doing the course, because this is so vital, so important, so much of where the concepts of the course and the ability to bend, undo lie. So this is the great deception of the world, and you, the great deceiver of yourself. And again, we set this up so it looked like something else outside of me is the problem. I'm the innocent victim the whole time, holding in our mind the belief in separation and the fear of the love of God. But because we were too afraid of the love of God, we decided to find a way to stay separate and then appear to be the sweet little adorable innocent victim.
And the sad thing is, real same thing, is that's how we set it up.
We set it up that way.
I mean, I
And
want to be
Yes.
disappointed by
yes,
you, so that I can project my guilt onto you.
correct.
You're the sinner,
Yes,
because it's your fault that I died.
you got it. Now, I think it's really important to emphasize here, this was set up before Mary Ann popped into the world. And this was set up before any of us popped into the world, okay? And everything of the world is going to support this thought system so that we all collectively agree on this story. Okay, so it's not Mary Ann did this horrible thing by doing this and that and whatever. Mary Ann popped into the world with this already well established. Okay, you could think of it as somebody who wrote a play, and then we get a couple characters, and okay, you're going to play this part, you're going to play this part, you're going to play this part, and we start playing the part, and we go, oh, I'm going to be the best murderer there is. They're just going to give me, awards for my part in this play. But as a result of this, we can never connect with truth or with peace, because this does not afford us that possibility. We have to
Better
drop
off
that to
sinner
do that.
Because I can't accept the fact that I'm innocent.
Well, exactly. Isn't that
I mean,
sick?
if I accept the fact that they're innocent, then I'm innocent.
Exactly.
It's helpful for me to think of it as the mind and not my mind.
Yes, you think that's a
You're
good
all
choice of
just set
words.
out a version
Yes.
of the one mind of the Son of God that opted for.
I think that's a good choice of words. Yes.
Separation.
Because it takes that personal, I
Yes.
did something horrible,
Right.
or even the words, I'm responsible. I mean, I think it's really hard for most of us to take that in. And what it's saying, it's not you, this character, it's the thought system that then produced this play of which you're one of the characters. So any aspect of having it be very personally, I did this wrong or I did this bad, is really anti what the course is saying, and it can really take you down the wrong road.
All of this I me mine stuff.
Yes,
where-
right. And I
Yeah,
think,
my ego too.
right. And I think most of us, usually go down that road initially because we don't fully understand the depth of what he's really
Yeah,
saying.
but the course does ask you to take you where you think you are,
Exactly.
okay? And you do think you are
Sure.
in this world.
Well,
Okay.
exactly.
And it's asking you, this is a classroom, I could change teachers now.
Yes.
That's my choice.
It's your choice. And fortunately, we now realize we have a choice that can be made that can make a difference. Because as Ken often said, the number one most important thing about this course is that when you're over here, you think you're mindless. What we're being offered is there's another choice, and to be able to access that means I'm not mindless any longer. With this, I was totally, this is the way it is. I'm an innocent victim of circumstances beyond my control. There is nothing I can do to make this happen.
And then it's true that you're imprisoned by something that
Yep.
you have no control over, that you can't get out of, and you accept it as a and
Yep.
everything is horrible, life is horrible. Why would you continue to live? That's really what.
Yep.
And that's why people,
Don't sometimes.
that's where they go. I mean, I remember that's where my thinking went, like,
Sure.
not, maybe to the extreme that but my thinking went here. This is all shit anyway.
Yep.
And you watch people who are
Yep.
well, my friend now is 50, 90, and she's not happy. Everybody is imprisoned.
Yep.
And so that's been a challenge. And I've been led to go be with her. And
We
see.
all came in with that.
But to watch her go through it and to see, because we went to church together years ago, to see where I can say something, not even thinking, I keep sitting there asking the Holy Spirit, help me to see this differently.
Yep.
And then I do, and then something occurs that shows me that's all I can do, and that's gonna lead to her not feeling imprisoned, and then I don't feel imprisoned either. So when I'm there, I identify with that sense of imprisonment.
And I think it's ironic when we can step back and realize we're all always in prison. But because it appears that I can drive my car and I can go here and I can go there and whatever, and now somebody's in a nursing home and those seeming things are taken away, it appears like we're in a prison, but we're really all in a prison all the time.
That's
You're
true.
the jailer.
Or we're the jailer. Either one is all the same.
Because
Exactly.
when I
Good
go there,
point.
I feel like I'm in prison
Oh,
too.
gosh, yes.
And then I have to give that up, say, okay, I help me, because I go right back to ground zero. I don't know what to do. I feel bad at having all these almost like heart palpitations, and I go, well. one
Let
reason,
me out
one
of
cause,
here.
One answer, one question and one answer, and then that's the only thing that I can, it's like a rope or something, I can, a guide rope I can hang on to and then pull myself back. Because it's, like it's not real, but it's.
Sure feels like it. Yep.
We're spreading it.
Yes. And shortly before you were talking about that, the word control came up, and it just occurred to me that the dichotomy of the concept of control in the course. Because the only real control we have, or the really only choice we have, is to choose differently. But that means I have to let go of my control and my belief of the ego in order to be able to access that. So that's a real interesting twist on the word control.
Like the thoughts you're having when you're in the ego, all your ego thoughts you're having, you can't just, you can't trade them. You have to just say, wait, hold it. It's not.
Yep.
This is
Well, we tried to control God in the beginning.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Well, and there's a cute little line that says, we asked a favor of God
There
that
you
he
go.
would not provide for us, but it wasn't that he didn't want to provide it for us, he couldn't, because that would mean he has to step over here. And there's no way he can step over there and be what he is. So we have to come back to him. He can't come to us in the way we would love him to do. Because if he said, it's okay, you're doing this, then we're off the hook. But that can't, just can't.
Well, you know, to see that there's 50 ways that her family could have solved the issue. And to know that whatever they did was perfect, because there's no such thing as 50 ways. There's just one way to solve the issue is to
Just is what it is.
say, no, I love you, whatever. You just can't go back over what everyone else did, and yet that's the temptation, is to say, well, if only they done this, and she'll say that too.
Mhm.
And so it's been interesting to have, I feel helpful, you know, with Holy Spirit, because it's not letting her say that. I mean, I don't holler at her and tell her not to say that. I just say, oh, and I just listen and I see, well, I got off the bus, and, you know, you're all right, wherever you are.
All right, so it always seems to be another who is evil, and in his sin, you are the injured one. And I, you know, you're sharing, Andrea, where you felt like you had no control because you were visiting her in a nursing home. And that enclosed experience, what this is saying, even with something like that, I mean, it's talking about evil and sin and whatever, but even your sense of I'm being, you know, I'm stuck, is something that we can apply this process along with it.
And that's
Because
what the miracle's for, is to get over that, get through that part.
yes,
Because then whatever it is, it's not real anyway, so that's.
exactly. So every opportunity is an opportunity.
And there's
to work
always
on
a
it.
new opportunity. I mean,
Yes.
so, you don't like the way somebody looks at you, I mean, anything that gets really.
Goes on and on.
I mean, it's almost like you have to just like hyperventilate the whole time you're trying to get it ready, right? It's like, oh, wait, oh, Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit. Have a cheerleader.
It sure feels that way some days, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so it always seems to be another who is evil. And in his sin, you are the injured one. And, you know, just look at all the moments of our day, whether it be a bug flying around or it's somebody that's, you know, do something horrible in life, or you turn on the TV. It's every moment of the day, there's some form of that that's being played out, that we immediately feel like I'm the injured one, I'm the innocent victim of this circumstances. And on somewhere deep within us, the belief that if it wasn't for whatever that thing or person or situation was, I would be at peace. Which from the perspective,
It's like Ken says in the Bible, where God said, because of what you've done, you will suffer all the.
oh yeah. well,
The
the-
God we made up is the one
Right.
in emulating,
Yes, exactly.
okay?
It
That's
has
not the
nothing to
loving
do with the
God
God.
welcoming you for just who you are,
Yes.
not what you did or didn't do, but who you are.
And slowly the course is trying to help us to have a more willing relationship with the Holy Spirit. And the workbook lessons continue to reinforce that, and the little willingness. And every time we choose, our trust that he has a better answer than the one I have starts to dawn on us, and our willingness starts to improve.
I just can't emphasize enough how much willingness this meant.
Oh, gosh.
It's like,
Amazing.
if I know nothing, what do I have to bring to the table?
Nothing.
Nothing. I just go anyway.
Just show
Say,
it.
that's what I got.
Here I am. What are you at? Yeah. Scribble.
You set it up that way.
Indeed, we have. Yes, yeah.
So
And-
not knowing anything, you still set it up.
Well, true, but when we really come down to the real realization, I really do know nothing, because
Well,
this is a
that's true.
setup. It's a setup that I can't figure out, because no matter how much information I think I have to figure it out, I still don't have the information to figure it out. No. And,
Because if you knew past, present.
well,
and right
but we
now,
don't.
but who does?
That's not available over here. It's
That's right.
available over here, but not over there. Yeah. And so when we can really just go, okay, don't have the answer. What do you got? It's very freeing when we can come to that place. Not always easy to get to the point where we're ready to do that, but when we start to develop that ability of recognizing that's where the real answer lies.
And sometimes I have to start with, I've heard this word willingness.
Mhm.
I'm not there. I
Okay,
don't-
yep,
I have, I've
Beautiful.
heard of it. Can you work with that? please?
right, yep. Yeah, and I so agree with you. And even like when Rose was saying, some days, I'm not ready to forgive that one. I think it's really important to be aware that you can still in that moment say, okay, Holy Spirit, I'm not willing right now, but show me how to come to the point where I will be willing. So that literally every moment there's a willingness to put that baby toe in the crack of the door that we can push it open just a tiny bit. Because that at that moment of being able to do that, you have to be at least conscious enough to be aware that I know better. And that's huge because you're not as brain dead as you used to be, even if you're not ready to walk through the door.
Sometimes I want.
Well, of course we do. We're really good at being evil and whatever. Yes.
So we're just clueless and you
And
can,
that,
so we're going back and forth again. We're getting off the merry-go-round. And
Yep.
thinking we can do it all ourselves. And
Yep.
something else is gonna happen, which.
I'll just offer my honey crisp back.
There you go. Well, and
Yeah.
also if we are still addicted to the roller coaster ride, and most of these theme parks make a scarier one or a more terrifying one than the last year. If you're addicted to that, the merry-go-round does not have any appeal whatsoever. It is only when we're ready to drop that, or by our willingness to choose, it drops by itself, that going on the merry-go-round is, oh yeah, this is kind of nice. I like that music. Ooh, that's cool. But again, we can't make ourselves be at a place to be ready for that, other than by the continued little willingness and getting out of the way to the best of your ability.
If we're not willing, I asked, so what else is there? So what's going on here? Oh, well, I guess it's just gonna be like this then.
Yep.
Poo-poo.
Yep.
Well, you want it that way so you can project your guilt.
Yep.
You have a purpose, except it's the wrong teacher.
And I think in this line, and I'll read it again, it says, it always seems to be another who is evil, and in his sin, you are the injured one. And if we take the concept that individual is evil, and that's a sin. And when we're coming from that place, there's no way I'm ready to let them off the hook, because they're the sinner, they're the evil one. And if it wasn't for them, I could be okay. And again, this is set up in such an amazingly ironclad way that we're so justified to remain in that place.
But the problem is, you forget the fact you've accused yourself first.
Well,
before-
at this point, that's not even in the picture yet. Now we're starting to understand this is how this was set up. We've lifted up the curtain a little bit and we find out what the cause was. But just in this box, there's no outlet for that information. And that's, one of the values, in my opinion, of the course. It's saying, wait, hold it, pull up the curtain and find out where, what this is coming from. If I think the cause is here, there's no way I'm ever going to get to the answer. I have to be willing to find out what was set into motion that made this. Well, and it is the thought we put in our mind.
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
Well, exactly,
back there.
exactly. Yep. But until we open the curtain, we don't see the whole
And
picture.
that's your reality then.
Yes.
That's the way you see it. This is the way it is. And the only thing is to let you, I just remember just putting up with it.
Yep.
Having just days of, well, I guess it'll blow over, something like that.
Yep.
But now I see that there's
Yeah, but at the time you were taking it as God, and not as a lie.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
and I think that's,
You believe it's true
right.
before you don't like it. You come in. with
That's
the-
true, yeah, that we're supposed to not like, it. That's the way it goes, that's not right. Like,
Yep.
the first word you say about against something, that's it. you're done.
Yep.
The word comes right back at you.
So then Jesus asks, how could freedom be possible if this were so? So what he's saying, if you're playing down here, you're the problem, you're the sinner, you're the evil one, and pointing the finger, then the answer is never going to come, because the answer doesn't lie over here. And again, that emphasis on the word usage of forgiveness to destroy that we talked a bit about, forgiveness to destroy keeps me here. If I'm over here, I'm not accessing the real answer. And that's what the ego loves. Stay right here, keep churning back and forth here, take the ping pong ball and just hit it back and forth on the table. Nothing's going to happen. And at the same time, we can, again, that bargain and compromise, we can play those games and it appears that I've got some control and things are a little bit nicer on my side of the party. But we haven't healed the problem. And until we heal the problem, which is to go to the cause and choose the other across the board, no matter what happens, no matter how big or small it is, until we do that, we're just bouncing back and forth. How could freedom be possible if this were so? You would be slave to everyone, for what he does entails your fate, your feelings, your despair or hope, your misery or your joy. So we're going to be slave to what happens in the world. And I can remember reading this little story of this monk or whatever who said, better to wear slippers than to have to carpet the entire world, which I thought is so sweet. And isn't that exactly what we want to do? We want to, try to figure out how to solve the problem everywhere in the world instead of take care of the problem where it lies. So again, you would be slave to everyone, which is exactly what we are. We are slave to all the experiences that occur in our world. And what he does entails your fate. So I'm in the effect of your cause, and there's nothing I can do. I can try to play games with it, but it ultimately will not heal. And I like the idea of your feelings. Because look at how much we wrap around our feelings in regard to my justification or pointing a finger at somebody else. I was fine. You gave me a dirty look. I'm hurt. And, there's not even a what's the word I want to use? There's, it's like a hurt. I can have a hurt and nobody can relate to my hurt at that moment. They may say, well, I've had a hurt before, so I know what you mean, but it's universal to me. It's like, it's something I harbor. You hurt my feelings. And there's no, like if somebody punches you, there's a bruise and you're bleeding or whatever, but an internal hurt, it's a little different story. And yet look at how that runs our show all the time.
And that hurt triggered something in you.
Exactly.
Okay, because in the rest of the world, if I give you a dirty look, you have no concern over it. But
Exactly.
this one person triggered something.
Yes, right. Which is again, part of the setup
Exactly.
that we did. But again, especially initially, there's no dots to connect to be aware. I set this up and this is what I wanted. And again, that's the beauty of the course from my point of view.
If I'm thinking there's a me and an other,
Oh, yeah.
that's enough to get me back to, oops, that's a mistake, that's duality.
Yes.
That's me and other, and there is no
Me and other,
Now,
yes.
I might not be able to jump over to the other side,
But the
Right,
door's
the
open,
time.
right?
but that's where the metaphysics of the course comes in, and
Yes.
it's very helpful, because that's just like a beacon
Yes.
out there, and I'll get there. You know,
Yes.
Maybe not in this instant.
Well, that type of behavior has no access to the right mind.
Mm,
Right mind stays pure and this
Exactly.
can never enter.
yes. Yep. All right, so again, your feelings, your your despair, and then he flips it around and says, or hope, because if I choose differently, then I access hope, or misery, and then or joy. So again, which side of the road am I on? Literally, in any given moment. And if, let's say someone does hurt my feelings, am I going to sit in the I'm hurt for the next month? Or am I going to immediately change it over to show me who I really am?
Once you get the tools, you're gonna
Then
try
you
to
can
work
use
on
them,
it.
yes.
Sat here for 2 whole sessions.
Well,
Yes.
part of your
Some-
tools are seeing that that person is the same as you are.
Yep.
He's got an ego, I've got an ego.
Yes.
Was it interesting that it's not, so it's, we think we're a body, we relate to ourselves as a body, but those, I guess, it's not look at the body, but it's about the mind. The mind is trying to injure another mind. So they already know there's more going on in the body, because you're not just going to give them a good kick, unless you're a little kid.
And you can get away with it
Yeah,
then.
you have your concept. It's not
Yes.
just, it's not about the body at that point, which is interesting, I think, because you get out of your body, but then you have to go right back in. because it's
Yep.
not working.
So you have no freedom unless he gives it to you. So in other words, if I'm aligned here, I have to wait for him to release me from whatever
You
is
gotta wait
this
for
going
him to
on.
change.
Pardon me?
Love.
Yeah.
Right.
Waiting on the world to change. Yeah.
And be very aware that this even has to do with our relationship with God. If I'm waiting for God to do something different so that I'm okay, I'm still playing the same game, because it doesn't matter who represents this other character.
Because you're telling God to make that go away. And
Exactly.
it's all about what you've done. God didn't do that. God is.
We're blaming God because of what you did. This is what's going to happen.
Exactly, which is exactly what we wrote into the script so
That's
that we would look at God that
We
way.
try to control God.
I think that's one of the biggest hurdles to the course, because we have this concept of God and what God is able to do or should do. And we pray about in that way, that
Sure.
God would do this and God would do that. And I remember someone saying to me, I said to them, I prayed that God would heal you and something about where God would be. And the person said, well, God was with me the whole time. So I didn't understand that.
The God of the Bible is not very consistent.
No, for sure. Yep. And being evil, he can only give of what he is, which I think is an interesting line as well. Because if your brother is aligned with evil, which we all really are, but that's beside the point, then why would we ever expect him to do something different? I mean, that's absurd. And I know, at times in my journey of practicing the course, sometimes you get a little tired of being the one that always has to ask for help, But if you put it into the perspective of this person doesn't even have the understanding that you have, why do you think they're going to come up with a different way of being? It's just not going to happen. And there is that place in the course where it talks about the idea of whoever is the most sane at any given moment has the opportunity to ask for healing. Well, if this guy's evil, he's playing that role. There's no way he's going to come around. I'm the one that has the ability or the responsibility if I take, what's that?
Singer of the two will drop.
Right, but that one, the Mission Impossible, where it says, if you choose to take this mission or whatever,
Right,
before,
yeah.
it's going to self-destruct or whatever, but.
Your mission,
What's that?
accept your mission, should you decide to accept it.
There you go. Thank you. And that's basically, who's gonna take that responsibility? Is this what I'm gonna choose? But if I'm waiting for them to change, got a long way to wait. All right, let's see. And being evil, he can only give of what he is. You cannot see his sins and not your own. And so we have to understand, if I'm seeing sin in him, it's because I'm not really this lily white character that I've made myself out to be. I'm really coming from the thought system that's in opposition to love. And the opposition to love is the opposite of what love is. So it's not love, it's hate. It's not kindness, it's evil, it's not good, it's bad, it's all those attributes live over here. Even though within the context of this, there are what we would call good people and bad people, but the good people and the bad people really fall under this umbrella if they're coming from the ego, because the good people are always doing what they're doing because they want to be affirmed as being the good person. And that doesn't mean you,
Manipulate.
well, manipulation and compromise is one of the four forgiveness to destroy concepts. And again, this is a very difficult concept for most of us to really grasp, especially initially. Eventually it makes sense, but what do you mean I'm not a good person? And that doesn't even mean you stop playing that role, but it does mean begin to look at when you're playing that role. Is there something you're looking for? Even if it's a pat on the back, or, you know, I give the example of in traffic. I'll let people in traffic and then I'll be looking for the wave, you know, and I didn't let them in the traffic for the wave, but I become very aware of the silly little games that we play.
The halo on our garbage.
Exactly, exactly. Yes.
Images hit you right in
Oh,
the
yes.
face, don't they? Body or no body.
Right,
it's gonna get
right.
you.
But the point is to begin to take out your magnifying glass and begin to look in the fine-tuned way of what you're up to. Not to make yourself feel bad or not to attack or judge yourself, but to become aware that the words this course are saying are accurate, even though we don't want to own them. But Jesus has got a point, and as we begin to observe, oh, thought I was really lily and white, but maybe not so much. And you know, really like to poke this guy's eyes out, maybe not so lily white.
And Ken reminds us to walk around with our tickle feather.
And to walk, yes, and not take it so seriously. Yes. Observe it, become aware of it, but don't take it so seriously. Because again, if we've chosen for this thought system, which we all have, we're coming from this. Of course, we're going to act that out into the world. When I drop this and choose this, then I will automatically be coming from this side. But as long as I'm over here, why be too surprised when I find out I'm not so lily white? But again, we have played this part so well for so long, it's hard to even,
Part of your DNA.
well, it's part of your DNA. I'm the good one, you're the bad one.
Yeah, just the duality is like just duality. It's just there all the time. So if somebody treats you a certain way, I guess it's totally,
Yeah, if you really look at your underlying thoughts behind all your actions, you're not gonna like it very well.
No, you're not.
you know,
Not likely.
when you get that sinking feeling,
Yes.
after you've done something good for somebody, you think, oh, I've done this and done that, you get that sinking feeling. And that's not peace. Why did I do that? I look at me now. I did this and I did that. So where's my reward? How come I'm not happy? with
Yes,
that?
exactly.
That's a real, you know, like that, the magnifying glass, like
It's like a
that's,
slap in the face.
yeah,
right?
that's a real wake up call. So I'm not happy. I did all this and they're still mad at me.
Exactly. And I think the advantage to that is when you play that part and you keep playing that part and you don't get the quote unquote results you're looking for, that's the motivation to look somewhere else because this plan isn't working.
Yeah, because it's a real downer.
It's a real
That's just
downer.
that sinking feeling of, I think, you know, working out, I remember that feeling. I guess that's my someday go-to feeling
Yep,
after
someday
church.
go-to
For,
feeling.
100 years, I went to church, all went to church, come
Yep.
home and go,
Mm.
what did that do?
Right, I'm doing everything right, everything.
Yeah, and I still, why do I
Yes.
still feel lousy? Yeah, why?
When you went in church and you were good, you came out in the parking lot and you're cussing all these son of a bitches.
Yeah, they couldn't wait to get out of the parking lot.
Yep.
Right.
To be an asshole, right? Okay.
Right.
They couldn't wait to get out the parking lot to show.
But I went to church.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah,
I'm not
Gary
mocking
Campbell
church.
did
Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
Some nuns that were
Sure.
professing to be
Oh,
Of
yeah.
course. Yep.
chewing up this mother superior.
Yep. Well, and I think that's the other thing. A lot of times people think, well, if you were in a nunnery or monastery or whatever, everything would be wonderful. But the thought
the same
system
thought
comes
system.
with you. Yes, yeah,
Just like the gurus and their mats and they get up.
yep, exactly.
And there's bugs on your hand.
Yeah, right.
Oh, excellent.
So you
Yeah,
cannot
that's
see
really-
his sins and not your own. But you can free him and yourself as well. So Jesus is rounding the paragraph out to, from its starting point of you are the great deception of the world to, but we can do something about it, which before we had no recourse.
Love how it does that.
I know, it's always, thank goodness for the last line, right?
Well, those verses are the ones that give us hope.
Yep.
That
Yes.
was- yes.
Really,
That's what we can have.
that's what grabbed me.
Oh, gosh, yes, we gotta have some good ones in there occasionally, especially if you're really reading the course from the depth part instead of just picking out the good words.
And he plays us. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
he plays this. Oh, yeah, he does. Aw. Yeah, right. All right, it is that time, so there you go. Everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions that can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given and accept with this into the minds that you created and which you love. Amen. Bye, everybody. So glad to have you on the call and in person.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Have a
Welcome.
good week.